What would you do if the world as you knew it came to an end? Picture this, the mundanity of life disrupted by a sudden cataclysmic event about a month ago. That's exactly what happened. The world as we knew it collapsed into chaos, and a veneer of containment was all we had to cling on to. Then the veil dropped, and boom. Everyone I knew began to stagger around like dazed kangaroos tripping over their own feet. But not me. No, I was determined to fight. I had my wits, my courage, and a stolen crowbar for company. I was doing well, all things considered, until I encountered him, Mr. Slobbermouth, a name I coined for the infected individual who saw me not as a human, but as a walking turkey leg. He bit me, that bastard, tore a piece of my shoulder off, oblivious to the fact that it was a hand he was chewing on. That encounter marked the beginning of the end for me, the start of a transformation I hadn't signed up for. The virus that had turned Mr. Slobbermouth into a mindless creature was now coursing through my veins, changing me, transforming me into something I could hardly recognize. Every day I woke up to find myself more like them, yet so different. The hunger was the same, but unlike them I was burdened with guilt, with love for humanity. The very love that wouldn't let me survive, not in this dystopian world. I was torn between my newfound instincts and my fading humanity. The struggle was real, the battle exhausting. I wasn't sure if I wanted to survive anymore, not if it meant watching my own kind being destroyed every day. But then there was no hiding from the truth. I was turning into one of them, and they could sense it. They left me alone, allowing me to walk freely amongst them. But remember, Mr. Slobbermouth got his dues when I cut off his head with a crowbar. I was doing well until about a week ago when he chewed on my bicep. That's when the real fight began, the fight within me, the fight for survival, and the fight against becoming one of them. Even I am surprised that I'm so consistent. A chilling realization crept over me as I took stock of my transformation. I was horrified not just by the physical changes but by the mental shift that was happening within me. I was becoming one of them, and yet I was not. I was still me, still human, still capable of feeling guilt for the unspeakable acts I was forced to commit. Every fiber of my being was racked with guilt, a relentless tormentor reminding me of my fading humanity. I was caught in a grisly dance between my primal instincts and the remnants of my moral compass. The hunger was overpowering, irresistible. It was a constant gnawing in the pit of my stomach, a ravenous beast that could only be satiated with the taste of human flesh. Yet every time I succumbed to this monstrous urge, the guilt would wash over me like a tidal wave, threatening to drown me in my own remorse. I was a predator, a creature of the night, and yet I was also a prisoner of my own conscience. It was a cruel twist of fate, a cruel joke that only I could appreciate as I navigated this new world. I discovered something unexpected. I could walk freely among the infected. It was like they could sense one of their own, like they were scanning a zombie membership card and finding it on me. They left me alone, unbothered by my presence. This was both a blessing and a curse, a double-edged sword that allowed me to survive while also reinforcing my monstrous nature. I'm not like them, but yet I am just like them. I see them do terrible things, things that start to drive me crazy. I see them devouring their own kind without a second thought, their eyes devoid of any humanity. It's a horrifying sight, one that sends chills down my spine and stirs up a storm of guilt and horror inside me. But I know that I'm no different. I'm just like them, a monster in human clothing, struggling to hold on to the last shreds of my humanity. You know how I said I'm just like them? Well, I'm better than them. I'm smarter, you see. I still have the ability to gain people's trust. Just yesterday I found one, a survivor huddled in one of the good hiding spots that I know of. His eyes lit up when he saw me, filled with relief and hope. He grabbed my hand, looked me in the eyes, and told me how glad he was to find someone else who was fighting to stay alive, to make sure none of those brainless hordes were nearby. I led him to another hiding spot, a basement tucked away from the chaos above. I allowed him to rest, to let his guard down. He fell asleep, probably for the first time in days, comforted by the thought that he was no longer alone. Then, when he was fast asleep, I did what I had to do. I broke his neck, crushed his skull like a ripe melon, and feasted on the soft, fleshy brain within. The tang of blood was a welcome change, a delicacy I had been craving. But then the guilt came. For a few moments I felt sorry for what I had done. I looked at his body, lying there in that stagnant pool of blood, looking as if he was still sleeping. I couldn't help but wonder about his life before all this madness. Was he happy? Did he have a family that loved him? Could he have survived in this hellish world? This guilt, though, it's a cruel reminder of my humanity, a stark contrast to the monsters I walk amongst. It eats at me, gnawing at the edges of my sanity. But there's one thing that both zombies and humans have in common: the will to survive. For a few moments I felt sorry for what I had done, saw his body in that stagnant pool of blood, looking as if he was still sleeping. But then I reminded myself survival is a game, and I'm playing to win. This caustic guilt grew within me, a constant reminder of my humanity. Each life taken, each trust betrayed, etched a scar into my conscience. Yet in the eerie quiet that followed, I found myself contemplating not the morality of my actions, but their necessity. Each gruesome act a desperate grasping at survival. Was it guilt or was it remorse? The answer seemed to matter less and less as the days wore on. After all, in this grotesque dance between life and death, the music had long since stopped caring for the steps. The world as we knew it was no more, replaced by a grim tableau of survival. And in this new world I found myself walking a thin line between man and monster. The realization was as stark as it was inevitable. But there is at least one thing zombies and humans have in common: the will to survive. And I'm going to do a much better job than any of them.